Tectonic shift. Shaping the future with innovation.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tectonic Shift. So, we now know what containers are and that Docker helps us create these containers. I also already outlined some advantages, but still you might wonder, why exactly do we need containers in software development? Maybe the example made sense for a picnic basket, and to some extent it makes sense for a software development. But is it really that important and useful? Yes, it is. We should just ask ourselves one simple question. Why would we want independent standardized application packages in software development? Well, for one very good and typical example, and one of the main use cases of Docker, I would say we of course often have different development and production environments. And here's a simple example. Let's say you created a Node.js application and you wrote some code there, which requires Node.js version 14.3 or later to run successfully. And this is not some made up example. The example you see here is Node.js code which uses a feature called top level await. Now you don't need to know Node.js to follow along with this course. For the moment, it's enough to know that this is a feature which would not work in older versions of Node.js. We need Node.js 14 or higher to execute this code successfully. The problem is that we might have that version installed on our local environment, on our development environment, on our local machine. But if we then take this application and we deploy it onto some remote machine, onto a server where it should be hosted so that the entire world can reach it, then on that remote machine, we might have an older version of Node.js installed. We might have an older version of Node.js installed there, maybe 14 or 12 or 8, whatever. And all of a sudden, the code which worked locally on our machine does not work there anymore. And depending on what's going wrong, it can take quite some time to figure out what the problem was. So having the same, and with that, I really mean the exact same development environment as we have it in production, can be worth a lot. And that is something where Docker and containers can help you. You can lock a specific node version into your Docker container and therefore ensure that your code is always executed with that exact version and environment. And all of a sudden, that potential problem is gone and can't occur anymore because your application runs in that container which brings its own Node.js version. So that's one example. Kind of related to that would be another example, different relevant environments within a team or a company. Let's say we are in a big team. I'm working there and you are working there, and now we are working on the same project. For example, that same Node.js application again, now because you haven't worked with Node for some time or because you didn't need to update, you still have an older version of Node.js installed on your system. And I have the latest version, so I wrote this code with top level await, and when I share the code with you, it doesn't work for you. Now, obviously, you might say updating Node.js is no problem. I can easily update on my system and we are on the same page again. Yes, but for one, it's just one example. There could be more complex projects with more complex dependencies which you need to manage and install. And in addition, even in that one example, it's still annoying that we are not able to work on the same code base together. And we have some guarantee that it will always work, and that we always use the same environment. We want that reproducibility in software development, and therefore even here, if we are not deploying it at the moment, having that locked in environment with everything the code needs in the container can be worth a lot. And now last but not least, even if you are working on your own, then still Docker and containers could be very useful. Because if you have multiple projects on which you are working, then you might have clashing versions. Let's say one project uses Python version 2 still for whatever reason, another project uses the latest version of Python. The same maybe with Node.js or PHP or whatever kinds of projects. There you would have clashing versions, and that means that whenever you switch from project A to project B, you have to uninstall the wrong version and install the right version. For example, if one project needs Node version 12, the other project needs Node version 14. If you switch project, you have to uninstall version 14, install version 12 instead, and vice versa. So switching between projects become a big hassle and is no fun at all. And that again is something where Docker and containers can help us. We lock our versions into the containers, and every project has its own container, and therefore if we then switch projects, it will just work like that. We don't need to uninstall and reinstall anything because it's all in the container, not globally on our host machine. And here first switching projects becomes easy as launching a different container. And these are all things we are going to see throughout this course, and you are going to learn everything you need to solve these problems throughout the Tectonic Shift Docker series podcast. And that's why we might want to consider working with containers and why Docker is quite helpful tool. That's all from today. Please subscribe and stay tuned. See you soon in the next episode. Bye bye.